Hello, you are watching a podcast on motion by Melinda Walsh. Today we're going to be learning about motion. The first question that you need to ask when learning about motion is, what is motion? Motion is defined as the act or process of changing position or place. There are several different ways that objects can move. In this podcast, we will be exploring the different ways that objects can move in the world around us. Some of the different ways that objects can move are listed here. They are round and round, back and forth, straight, zigzag, fast, and slow. One type of motion is round and round. An example of this would be a merry-go-round. The objects spin in a circle around and around. How about you try moving round and round? Everybody stand up, space yourself out, and spin round and round. Notice how you keep moving and going in a circle? You are now moving round and round. The next type of motion that we will learn about is back and forth. Everybody stand up and let's try learning about back and forth. Everybody take 3 steps forward. Then take 3 steps back. Take 3 steps forward again. And 3 steps back. You are moving back and forth. Back and forth. An example of this would be the pendulum on a clock. It swings back and forth as the time ticks by. The next type of motion we will talk about is straight. Straight is when you are constantly moving forward in a line. An example of this would be a car driving down the road or a train driving down the track. The train has no choice but to stay on the track, so it goes straight down the track. Zigzag is another type of motion that we will talk about. You see this when you're on roller skates. First, you go off to the right, then to the left, then to the right, then to the left. This type of motion helps you to move fast when you're on your roller skates. Zigzags are an important motion in our life. Fast is another type of motion. There are several objects in our world that can go fast, but when I think of fast, I think of race cars. There are people that make their living driving fast, such as in NASCAR, driving their cars fast around the track. Slow is another type of motion. When I hear the word slow, I think of snails. Everybody stand up and try moving slow. Show me what slow looks like. There are also several different ways in which we as humans can move objects. These objects can move in ways such as pushing, pulling, and rolling. Rolling is something that we see in our everyday lives. The first thing I think of when I hear of an object rolling is something such as a ball or a car. The most common things that roll are things that have wheels because they're circles that go round and around. But other objects can roll as well. Humans can roll because we can roll around and around in a circle if we lay on our backs. There are lots of things in our universe that will roll. Can you think of something that rolls? Another way to move objects is to push an object or to pull an object. In many different objects, you can both push and pull an object depending on which action you are performing. To push something, you would be pushing forward the object. Think of a lawnmower. When your parents mow the grass, you have the lawnmower and they're holding onto it and they're pushing it forward. They're putting their weight on it, pushing forward. To pull something, the object is usually behind the person and they're pulling it forward. They're taking the weight of the object and pulling it along with them. Think of a child's toys. You'll see in the video in just a second. The child can push the toy forward when it's in front of him, and when he turns around and puts the object behind him, he is now pulling the object. In this podcast, you have learned about several different ways that objects can move, whether it be round and round, back and forth, straight, zigzag, fast, or slow. Every object in our world moves in some way, whether it moves naturally or in ways that we move it, like we just talked about, whether it be pushing, rolling, or pulling. I want you to now turn to your neighbor and think of an object that goes round and round. Tell this to your neighbor. Now I want you to answer a few questions for me. If you have a ball, does it push, pull, or roll? If you said roll, you're right. One last question. If you have a lawnmower, do you push, pull, or roll the lawnmower? If you said push, you're correct. Now I would like for you to turn to your neighbor and tell them one thing that you thought was the most interesting that you learned from this podcast. Thank you for listening and have a great day.